cancer, that devastating C word that has devastated the lives of so many people and families. I have personal experience with cancer. My aunt died from cancer. My uncle died from cancer. My father died from prostate cancer. I was with my mother in the surgery, holding her hand when she was diagnosed with cancer. I will never forget the look on her face. Cancer devastates lives, but there is hope. I'm about to meet an inspiring gentleman, Duncan, who was diagnosed with stage 3 cancer. But after his operation, chose, instead of just relying on chemotherapy, alternative methods to bring his body back to an optimal state of good health. This is an inspiring story. If you suffer from cancer or are concerned about the treatments and different alternative treatments of cancer, you don't want to miss this inspiring story in the series of Lean Mind Body Stories. Hi Duncan.
Hi Ken.
Good. It's a pleasure to see you after such a long while, and thank you very much for agreeing to share your story. I just remember a few years ago when you were supposed to attend an event I was staging as a role model, you calling me and telling me of your circumstances. But if I remember rightly, you had some issues prior to 2015 with your health. Could you just outline what those were?
Sure. Well, back in 2012, I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. It was quite a surprise, though when I look back I can see that I was the kind of person that had a bit of a sweet tooth, but I thought I generally ate quite healthy. So that was quite a surprise. So initially I was put on metformin, which I took for about a year or so, but during that year I decided to do my own research to find out more about type 2 diabetes, and I discovered that it was completely reversible. So I then started to change my diet completely. Within that year, I was able to completely come off of all medication, metformin, and be diet controlled, diabetic. And so what that involved was every 6 months I would go and have a blood test just to make sure that everything was still on track. And yeah, for most, well, in fact, for all of that period from 2012 right down to the time you're talking about when we spoke, my diabetes was under control and all was good.
Really pleased to hear that you reversed the diabetes. So how did you reversing the diabetes, how did that lead to you hearing about your devastating news?
Right. Well, this was in 2015. It was supposed to be a great year for me. It was the year I got married, I turned 50.
Wow.
Lots of good things happening.
Yes.
Very excited. And a week before my wedding, I went to have again the routine diabetic check. And I went to my doctor, and the blood test was actually done in his surgery. So as I left, within hours, he had the result. And he phoned me, and I was quite alarmed that he would phone me. And he says, "Look, Duncan, how are you feeling?" I says, "I actually feel fine, I feel good." He says, "I'm not happy with your results. Could you come back?" So I got a little bit anxious, but I thought, okay, well, it's good that he's caught something. Let's go back and see what's going on. We went back, and he says, "Look, your blood results aren't quite perfect." I says, "Is it the diabetes?" He says, "No, your sugar levels seem generally okay, but you seem to be anemic, and your platelets don't seem to be quite right." And he seemed rather concerned. He looked at my tongue, he says, "Your tongue looks kind of white, and that's not a good sign. It means that your blood circulation is not good." Then he decided that he was going to refer me to the hospital to have a series of tests to try and investigate why my blood count was so low. I mean, the key questions he asked me were, was there any blood in my urine or in my stool? And I said, no, there was no evidence of anything going wrong. I felt fine, apart from noticing that I was a little bit more tired than usual. But during this time, I was preparing for a wedding, I was training hard. So the tiredness I put down to just being overworked and tired and all that kind of thing. So
that must have been quite scary, hearing your doctor saying something not just quite right, and especially at an important time in your life when you're about to get married.
It's not the news you want to hear at that time, you know. But you know, I trust my doctor, and I have a good relationship with my doctor. To be honest, I don't see him that often, but I think because of the diabetes, we've developed a relationship, and I see him every 6 months or so, as I've said.
The doctor said there was something not quite right with the preliminary test. Mm-hmm. What happened after that?
Right, so as I said, I got married and went on honeymoon. During the honeymoon, everything seemed fine. Came back from honeymoon and had my first test. I had an endoscopy, and that's putting a camera down your throat just to see if there's anything. After about 2 weeks, the results came back, it was all clear. So I had a little bit of a sigh of relief after that, feeling that was good. Then I had, I think, an MRI scan, full body scan. Again, it came up as normal. And then the final scan I had, that one requires a camera being passed up your bottom. Not a very nice experience.
Okay.
But that's when they actually went into my intestines, and in my small intestine found a tumor. Now, initially, they weren't 100% sure whether it was cancerous or benign, but they took a small sample, and then while I was away, they were testing it. So I went away, and when I came back, was when I actually got the results of the tumor test.
You were told there was something not right.
Yes.
You went and had some further tests.
Yes.
You were told something was not right.
Absolutely.
And you was asked to come to the hospital. How did that feel?
I was a little anxious, I won't lie. I was a little bit anxious. I mean, if you imagine, you just got married and they're saying potentially you could have cancer. The crazy thing was, I did not feel unwell in the slightest. I felt good. The only thing I felt was the anxiety of wondering what was going to be the outcome of this thing. Despite that, I don't think I had any sense of fear. There was a peculiar sense of it's going to be okay from the very off. So initially anxiety of, oh my gosh, it couldn't happen now, just got married. And I think my concern at that time was more for the welfare of the people around me, particularly for my daughter who had lost her mother to cancer, and now me potentially having cancer, my new wife. So I was more concerned, to be honest, about everyone else around me. And I actually felt, I'm fine, I'm gonna be fine. I had no doubt that I was gonna live through this, whatever it was gonna take.
So you went down to the hospital feeling positive, irrespective of what, in your mind, what you thought the results could be.
Absolutely.
And so you went to the hospital, and then the doctor said to you?
So I never met this doctor before. He was a consultant, and he's the one that actually says, yes, I confirm that the tumor that you have inside of you is cancerous.
I just have to ask.
Yes.
At that moment when you heard that C word,
yes,
even though you went to the hospital feeling positive,
yes,
what went through your mind?
I'm going to be totally honest. No fear. Absolutely no fear. I think even the doctor looked at me hard to see if I was kind of trying to hold myself back or hold strong. But honestly, I had such a sense of peace. Now, I put that down, and I can only put that down to my spiritual life and where I am spiritually, that I felt that there was no need for me to worry, that I was going to be taken care of. I had this assurance that I know was not of a physical presence, but definitely of a spiritual sense of security. Because I can't explain it. I honestly heard that word that you talk about, that everyone shivers. And prior to that, I did have some anxiety, but at that moment, he said, you do have a cancer. I actually felt a peace. I felt a remarkable calm. And he looked at me, he says, but you're such a nice guy, you're a young man. We only met for a few minutes, but we were chatting about the fact I just got married and all the rest of it. We had a really lovely conversation. And he said to me, look, usually these things take about 2 weeks before we can have an operation. The procedure is basically you have an operation to remove the tumor, and then they have another look at the tumor, and then they decide what course of treatment you then go on to. So he says, look, it normally takes about 2 weeks, but he says, I don't know, but I like you. I says, oh, thank you. That was really nice to hear. And it was a young surgeon. He says, look, I'm supposed to do an ordeal, and this is not good, and I hope he doesn't get in trouble for me sharing this, but he says, look, I've got an ordeal to do on Tuesday, but I could push her back. I'd like to get you done as soon as possible. Not that I'm worried about the cancer or anything like that, but just so that you're done and we can get you healed and back on your feet again as soon as possible. So I'm going to take her out. This is on a Friday afternoon. He says, on the Tuesday, I want you in the surgery. I want you to get moving as soon as possible. So within those 4 days, I was, I didn't even have time to even get my head fully around it. And at this time, my wife wasn't even party to this information that it was confirmed that it was a cancerous tumor. So I had to leave him feeling kind of lost, shocked, surprised about the whole thing. Though I still had a sense of it's going to be okay. I was like, it was a lot to take in, a lot of information taken in a very short space of time. And my thought now was, as I was left the hospital, was I've got to go home now and tell my family that the tumor that was discovered is cancerous and they're going to have to operate and operate within a few days.
Did he give you the prognosis?
At the time, he could not. All they could do was say that they could only take out remove the tumor and take it from there. So he didn't give me any prognosis in terms of my chances or anything like that. He just says, let's take it one step at a time.
So you came home and you had to tell the family.
I did.
How did that go?
Oh, I prayed a lot. I prayed a lot, and I told my wife first. I said to her, look, you know what? You remember we discovered this tumor and I've been today. Because the call was quite random on the Friday when the surgeon called me. That wasn't a scheduled call. He just called me and said, look, I've just got the results back from the CT scan. So I told her that I had just received the result, been to see the consultant, and he wants to operate on Tuesday because they're pretty sure it is a cancerous tumor. Of course, it was devastating news for her, and you can imagine she was in tears and really broken at the time. And then later on, my daughter came home from work and I had to share it with her. Again, devastating news for her because she'd already lost her mother to it. But that was perhaps the most difficult moment, literally, of the whole process. Worrying about their reaction, how they were going to deal with it. I felt strong within myself. I felt confident, but how could I pass that on, that confidence and share and comfort and support my family? It's strange that my thought was never, I wasn't worried about me. I was so concerned about my family getting through this. That was my only real concern.
I think that's a testament to the personality that I've known over the years, Duncan. So was it within 5 days you had?
So I was in hospital, and they told me I was going to be in hospital for 6 days. I would have the operation, and then for the next 4 days I wouldn't be able to eat anything. I'll just literally live on water, and then hopefully once I start healing, they would start therapy to get me back on my feet, because during the 4 days after the operation I was lying flat on my back just drinking water, because your stomach, literally, the good thing was it was keyhole surgery, so it wasn't like I had a big rip in my stomach. They told me they were going to have 3 small holes. Reality was I had 5 small holes. I don't know, to this day I don't really know why I ended up with 5, but they removed the tumor, and the surgeon decided by his own initiative to take out a third of my intestine. Wow. That wasn't discussed beforehand, and he said, look, you know what, Duncan, I didn't find anything other than that, but something told me that I should take out more as a precautionary measure, because you actually don't need all those miles and miles of intestines inside your stomach. He says you won't feel any difference whatsoever by the loss of all that, but there's something about you that tells me I should just do that. And I thought this was quite remarkable. But that's what happened.
I mean, when you have a tumor, and when the tumor is discovered, it could have spread elsewhere. So
that was his concern, that there may have been particles. He said that even in the process of the operation, sometimes they disturb the tumor and little particles might be floating around. So he wanted to ensure that if there was any particles floating within my intestine, that they would be completely removed. The good thing at that point, when I had the operation, they could see no other signs of cancer. So it was local. It was only on one site. So that made the whole thing look a lot better. So in terms of prognosis, they were saying that, the good thing is it's local. It's not spread. It's not anywhere else in your body. It's just this one tumor.
So you're diagnosed with cancer. You have the operation. Have the tumor removed. But that's not the end of
far from it.
Cancer diagnosis.
Absolutely. So
what happened next?
So once they were happy with the operation, that's the removal of the tumor, you're then passed on to an oncologist who's a cancer specialist. And now he's the big man that makes all the decisions about what type of treatment, based on the type of cancer you have, that he recommends. Now, he sat me down, he told me exactly the type of cancer that I had, and his suggested treatment, which would have been an 6-week program, a 6-week program, which would be 8 treatments of chemotherapy. I wasn't really happy or keen to have chemotherapy, particularly because that same year a good friend of mine had passed away from cancer, and I saw the suffering that she went through the therapy. And you must remember, at this point, even after the operation, I felt no sickness and no pain. I remember after the operation, I was told that I would have to lay flat on my back for 4 days because I'm going to be in a lot of pain. And they gave me a little button to press for morphine whenever I needed it. Rather than have to shout for a nurse, I could just press this button and inject myself with morphine. Up to the day 4 after the operation, I never pressed that button once. I did not have the pain I was supposed to have. So much so that on day 5, they told me to get out of this hospital and go home because they don't know what's going on with me. Because it was unusual that I was healing so rapidly.
So you had the chemotherapy?
So no, this is just after the operation. So now I'm referred to the oncologist. The oncologist now sits down with me and told me, yes, he thinks that I should have 8 treatments of chemotherapy, 8 shots or 8 episodes of chemotherapy treatment over a period of 6 months. The reason they did it over a period of 6 months was that they felt that there was not any cancer in my body, that they felt they had caught it just in that one area, in that tumor, and it was unlikely to be spreading or coming up anywhere. And this chemotherapy treatment I was having was more precautionary rather than they were fighting cancer. So they felt that they were going to give me enough to prevent any cells developing if there were any particles left, but they wanted me to still be able to function. So the doses would be manageable, that I should be able to still work and function and do stuff over that 6-month period. So we began the treatment. And I had my first treatment in December 2015. I can remember up to this point, I had no signs or feeling of sickness. My healing of my wounds from the operation was definitely miraculous. It healed so quickly. Feeling good. I was actually in my mind thinking about going back to work, even though they said I should not work for up to a year afterwards. Mainly because of the scarring and stuff that was going on in my stomach, not so much because of the general treatment for the cancer, the chemotherapy. But I had my first chemotherapy in December, and after my first treatment was the first time ever I felt sick. In my entire life, I've never really been a sickly person, but 2 days after I had that shot of chemotherapy, I felt weak. I was had nausea. Every smell that was around the house was just making me throw up. I could not keep any food down. I was really feeling awful. And so on the second day, I had to be rushed back to hospital, and they observed me. They said obviously my body had reacted badly to the chemotherapy. You must remember that chemotherapy is literally poison. It's not distinguishing good or bad cells, it's just killing cells. At that point, they told me I had no cancer. So we're not fighting cancer. We're just literally putting poison into my system. And my system now is fighting against this poison that's coming in my body. So I felt violently ill, really ill. Never had a sickness or ever felt like this in my life. And I was thinking, I think I've made a wrong decision in having chemotherapy.
It's not chemotherapy a standard precautionary measure after an operation?
Not necessarily after an operation, because there's chemotherapy, there's radiation, there's what the medical profession normally do. Once you've had the tumor removed that's proven to be cancerous, then the treatment is supposed to be chemotherapy or radiotherapy. That, as you rightly say, is the standard procedure. For me, from the very beginning, I was reluctant to have chemotherapy, but again, listening to my family and friends and their concern about me not having it, I thought I will have just a few sessions, more to appease my family more than I actually felt convinced in myself that I shouldn't have it. So I was actually going against my own sense that this is not right.
So chemotherapy is kind of prepare your body and put your body in a state where the cancer may not return. But from what I'm hearing in our conversation, you also decided to take matters into your own hands outside of the medical profession.
After my reaction to the first session was so horrible, I immediately got on the internet. I immediately started talking to people who were survivors of cancer, and a series of things just happened incidentally, but I don't believe in incidents. There's a gentleman that lives 5 doors away from me, who I've been living in this house maybe for 15 years, 20 years maybe. And he's a guy, a black guy, I always say hi to every morning. We've never really had a deep, meaningful conversation. And so I'm in the bank actually down the road, and he comes in and he says, hey, hi, how are you? And he sees my dad every once in a while. My dad trains with him at the gym. And so he then, how's your dad? I haven't seen your dad for a while. And so I was telling him about how my dad's getting on. And he says, how about you? And I says, well, I've just been diagnosed with cancer and I've just started chemotherapy. He goes, what? Well, he was really shocked. And he says, but you look all right. Look like someone. I says, man, if you saw me a couple of days ago, you'd never believe it. You never believe I'll be up going to the bank and stuff. So anyway, he says, look, I want to give you some stuff, man. He says, what are you doing about your cancer? What are you taking? He says, are you having chemo? He says, you don't want to be having chemo. I can help you with this, man. You don't need to take no chemo. He says, I'm going to send some stuff down to you immediately. When I get back home, I'm going to put a little package together for you and send it with my son. So by the time I actually got back, there was a package already here that he put together which had some moringa in it. It had some soursop seeds. It had moringa powder. And this guy just said, look, gave me some instructions, said, look, start taking this immediately. He goes, what are you eating? What are you doing? So I started to tell him, I've cut out all meat. He says, brilliant. He says, I want you to start juicing greens every day. Yeah. So I said, I've already been researching some of that stuff, and you're just in line with all the stuff. He says, look, whatever you need, just let me know. I'll get you some stuff.
So how did you feel about the gentleman presenting you with an alternative way of addressing your cancer with just your diet and your supplements?
I knew it was right.
Okay.
I immediately knew it was right. My spirit told me it was right. I'd seen people. You see, the thing was, the thing that was supposed to be the treatment was the thing I felt was killing me, was the thing that was causing me more harm. So I knew that can't be the thing. I wasn't feeling good. I was fine prior to that. And immediately I had started to make changes. The interesting thing was, when I came out of hospital, I felt so amazing. After the tumor removal, because I had been fasting, because I had been on water for 4 days, it's almost like that rebooted my body. I felt really quite good.
So a fast helped you?
Helped me. It
reboot your body?
Absolutely. So it got me back onto drinking a lot more water, because I was feeling so good. I thought, you know what? And I'd lost a bit of weight even, after the operation. I think I want to stay like this. And then, you start the chemo, but then that's when I started to feel unwell. And so I went to see a nutritionist. After meeting my neighbor and his advice, I thought, you know what? Let me actually go and see a nutritionist just to get additional information about what I should be doing, whether I should take chemo or not. And if I am going to take chemo, what are the things I'm going to need to support that if I'm going to continue? Because although I was adamant that I should really just stop, family kind of pressure were like, don't, try and negotiate with your doctor rather than just come off, have a couple more, see what you can do. So I did that. I went to see the oncologist and said, look, I'm not happy having the 8 treatments that you think I should have. I don't think my body needs it. I know that you've already told me that I'm free of cancer. It makes no sense to me to be having chemotherapy when we're not fighting anything. I understand you said that, I should have a couple or I should have these 8 as a preventative measure. But I feel if there's nothing there, and if there are small particles, 2, 3, 4 max should be enough. He agreed reluctantly that I would only have 4 treatments instead of 8, half the agreed initial treatment. And I felt comfortable with that. I felt good about that. So the good thing was that as time went on, not only did they decide to lessen the whole length of treatment, but we actually lessened the dosage. I had made sure they reduced it right to the minimum amount of chemo going in my system. So I actually basically sailed through the rest of the chemotherapy. I wasn't as ill, I wasn't as bad as I was before.
But you realised that you had to take your life into your own hands.
Absolutely.
And develop some new lifestyle habits to
Yes.
put your body in a state so the cancer wouldn't return.
Absolutely.
What were those decisions? What were some of the lifestyle changes that you made?
Absolutely. Well, see, cancer is radical. And in order, if you're going to deal with cancer, you have to be radical in the way you're going to deal with it. So I was never really a great meat eater. So I didn't really have to cut out a lot of meat. I only, at the time, I was eating lamb and chicken. But I made a decision after doing some research, and I was looking at people like Patrick Delves. I don't know if you know about him. He's a nutritionist and does a lot of work around cancer and basically all kind of chronic diseases. Dr. Sadie, again, lots of information. I did lots of research. And the key thing was to get my body back into what they call an alkaline state. And that was my mission, to get my body back into an alkaline state, which would mean I'd have to change my diet or radically look at it and become a plant-based diet. And that was the key thing. So I went back to remembering how I was on a fast, just on water, and how great I felt, how I felt it rebooted my body. But I knew that it wouldn't be enough to just be on water. I needed to have some nourishment and vitamins through food. But I decided to go green, as often people do. So I started going back on the juicing, making sure I added things like moringa in there, spirulina. I drank a lot of cucumber juice. It's also very good, has great antioxidant properties, great at fighting cancer. And I had shipped from the Caribbean soursop seeds. I had moringa shipped over on a regular basis, the leaves, and I would brew teas. I would make my juices, and literally that's what I was living on immediately throughout the period I was having the chemo, and that made the chemo process a lot easier. Added to that, I was taking supplements because you need to boost your immune system, and that was the main thing, building up my immune system, because the cancer treatment, the chemotherapy, it kills good and bad cells, so it weakens your immune system. So I was taking supplements to boost up my immune system predominantly.
What supplements were you taking?
Everything, literally, the full scale. I was taking things like B12, B7 to boost my immune system. I was taking vitamin C. I needed to put oxygen back into my bloodstream because, again, with all these treatments, you lose oxygen, and oxygen is really important. I also started to do small exercises. I could do heavy exercises, but just free weights, using my own body to exercise. Again, very important to open up your chest and to get your circulation and to put more oxygen through your system. So those were the kinds of things. I can't remember all the supplements I was taking, but at the time, I was also regulating the supplements based on whether I was having a treatment, a chemotherapy treatment or not. So my nutritionist would advise me which ones to take during the times I was having chemo and during my rest periods where I wasn't having chemo. So the ones I was having in between sessions were directly for building back up my immune system, replenishing my cells so that I could take the chemos the next session.
A vitamin that's been associated with bringing someone's body into a state where cancer can't exist is vitamin D.
Absolutely, you're absolutely right. That was key, and to this day I still take vitamin D supplements. Yeah.
And do you remember what the IU you take, the vitamins?
I can't remember.
It's a high
doses.
High dose,
yeah.
And vitamin D it was a stable part of
absolutely.
your.
Very key, very very key.
What I'm hearing is you had the diagnosis, you had the operation.
Yes.
You decide to take matters also into your own hands, and you had to make, for some, which might seem as some radical life changes, especially in your eating and living habits. Were there any challenging times during that period?
Oh yeah, I love food. I love food. I love Caribbean food. I like food from all over the world. And prior to all of this happening, I used to eat out a lot. And I have quite a healthy social life. My friends, we all eat out. We do come down at each other's houses. And so the temptations, just that, initially was very difficult to stick to the diet. But you can't think about the short term. You've always got to think of why you're doing this. Why are you going through? What difference is it going to be to miss out a piece of, I don't know, chicken today when it's going to affect potentially your whole life? And you have to always bring things back into perspective. The reason why you're doing this, because I want to live. I want to see my daughter get married and have children. I'm not finished yet having children. Who knows? It's still possible. So, I'm still quite a newlywed. So, all these things give me reasons why I should really just stick to the program. The benefits of the program. I feel fitter and healthier than any other time in my life. So the benefits were there. But the challenges, I said, are mainly when it comes to eating out and socializing and having to make those decisions about your diet. Sometimes it's hard in terms of maintaining my exercise regimes, because again, life happens. But again, as you were saying, it's about making regular habits. So not trying to fit those things in, but putting those things as the priorities.
You mentioned the word sacrifice sometimes during our interview. I kind of term it investment, and you was able to make that investment in your health because you had a really big why. A question, how important was it to gain the support of the people around you and the understanding of the people around you through this process that you went through?
Right, it was key. It was vital to have the support. There are tough times, particularly when I was going through the chemo. And as I said, I had a mental challenge because I didn't really want to be doing it. I kind of knew you're kind of damaging yourself by having the chemo. But still, the encouragement of friends, family, even strangers was incredible. And there are times when you're going to have your low moments. I mean, thankfully, I didn't have too many of those. I can remember particularly 2 occasions where I really felt low. I just felt sorry for my wife, strangely. Again, I'm not the kind of person that feels sorry for myself. I feel I can handle anything that's thrown at me. But I just thought about my wife being newlywed. This wasn't what she signed up for. But the great thing was that we are people of faith. We have a great church community. And I tell you, I don't know where you stand with faith, but I know that prayer really works. I mean, even during the process, one evening, my wife's former church, the whole congregation came to my home and had a prayer service in my house. And it was that kind of thing that gave me inspiration, that motivated me, that made me feel that this is not a walk that I'm walking alone. It also made me realize that God was doing something in this process that was bigger than me. So whatever I was going through, God allowed it for His purposes. And I know that anything He does, His purposes are good. And I knew that He would use this so that I could testify to someone about His goodness, His mercy, and His grace. I knew that I was going to go through this so that I can help someone else go through exactly the same process.
So just at your low moments,
yes,
even though there weren't many,
yes,
what did you do to lift yourself up? You may be by yourself or whatever, but at the moments when you felt really low, because there must have been 1 or 2,
Sure.
What did you actually do?
Well, the first thing I did was to tell my wife. I think automatically as a man, you want to protect all the time, you want to shield. But for a woman, she actually gets some comfort in knowing. Though she might find it hard, it's when they don't know what's going on in your head and they worry. You create more anxiety when you're trying to be Mr. Tough Guy and everything's all right. But one of the things again, maybe from my work as a counselor, I understood that whatever I'm going through, as delicately as I can, I need to share that. And I do believe in a problem shared. Because in sharing with her, I felt some relief, because part of my stress was worrying about her. But in sharing with that, I could see her saying, look, that is tough, that is hard, but I'm here for you.
So you took off the kind of macho, masculine of trying to protect your wife by saying, look, the best way to deal with this by just sharing,
being honest,
being vulnerable.
Those things, and I say this to all men who are watching this, who are listening, don't be the tough guy. It doesn't help you, it doesn't help the people around you. bring them in to go through this process with you. It makes it easier. It actually alleviates their stress when they are part of it. They understand it. They know that you're human. They can see that. And if you don't share, how could you expect them to share when they're going through stuff? You create an open dialogue and a space where people can come and share and be honest. And that way you know what to do in that circumstance. And you know what? And even if they didn't have an answer for me, they didn't have the solutions, just knowing that they know and they're rooting for me was enough.
Oh, that's great. So, you've gone through the diagnosis, you've gone through the operation, you've changed your lifestyle habits.
Yes.
So where are we now? Where are we now with the cancer?
Okay, well, I am 100% cancer-free.
Wow.
I have my regular checks, and the doctors just look at me and they think it's remarkable, and it truly is. And I'm grateful. I'm grateful to God. I'm grateful to the people that were placed in my life and my family, who have really been a part of this process. You cannot walk this walk alone. You need people. You need the support and the love of your family. There's different levels required to come through something like this. You need your spiritual sense or your faith to underpin things. If you have a faith, it's really important to tap into that. You need the support of your friends and family, but you also need to have knowledge. You need to have facts. You see, the pharmaceutical industry, there's too much built on this cancer thing for them to give you. We already have the solution for cancer, but you can't put a patent on things like moringa. You can't put a patent on soursop. So they're not going to tell you. They're not going to make any money from that. So you have to research. You have to do your due diligence. Do not sit and just listen to what the doctors tell you.
So in your opinion, you taking some control of your health and adopting your healthy lifestyle, changing your eating habits, changing the way you lived your life was fundamental in where you are today?
Absolutely. I can't imagine where I'd be if I just went along with the medical profession, if I just went along with the doctors and the professionals, because I know that I would not possibly be cancer-free, that's for sure. But I know that I'm completely cancer-free. I know that the lifestyle that I now live will continue. This is not something I'm doing just to a point. For the rest of my days, I will eat the way I eat now. One of the things that I would, again, recommend that now has become, I haven't become a complete vegan, but because that's a bit hard for me, personally. But if I eat chicken, I only eat organic chicken. So I'm much more selective about the foods I eat. I try to eat as much organic food as possible. But one of the key things that has become a fundamental in my lifestyle is that every 6 weeks I fast. Every 6 weeks I will have a vegan diet for a week. Sometimes it might not be quite a week, it might be 3 days, but I will, for those, they reboot my whole system. And I would recommend that to anybody. Don't wait till you have a disease. Don't wait till you have something go wrong like me. Put it into your habits. I know it's tough to just cut out stuff completely, but if you're gonna eat an elephant, don't have to start at the worst part. Yeah, take small bites. Take an ear, nibble an ear. It's not so bad. Don't start with the bottom.
I think that's great advice, and Duncan. I think your story has been amazing and inspiring, and also a proof that when someone changes their lifestyle habits, they can truly affect their health, even when they're suffering for something like cancer. In conclusion, to anyone listening to this video here who may have some kind of concerns about cancer, what would your message be to them?
Okay, whatever your concerns are, if you're someone who thinks that potentially you might have it, or you've been diagnosed, research. Do not, obviously, initially get medical help immediately. Go to your doctor and go through those processes. You do need you need information, so collect as much information as possible. See what your doctor says, listen to what oncologists say, but do your own due diligence. There's lots of information out there on the internet. I recommend people like Patrick Dales and Dr. Sabi. But the important thing is to take control, be a part of the process. It's your life, it's not their life. You just need to get the information from them, and you need to make decisions. Your decisions need to be based on facts, need to be based on what you know about yourself. From the very beginning of this process, I felt that I shouldn't be taking chemo and things like that. I didn't listen to that. Listen to your inner self and trust what you think is right about what you should do. Take into account what the professionals are saying. Do not ignore it, but you know what's best for you. Your mind is going to be your most powerful asset in this process. How you think will determine what's going to happen. And I encourage people to really, really, really be firmly fixed in their mind about living, key, about beating, about being successful, about coming through. Do not allow or entertain any negativity. Do not surround yourself with negative people. Find survivors, find cancer survivors. I did that. I became a preacher when I used to go for my chemo. I don't know if you know what the setup is like in a chemotherapy session, but it's like a room and you're all sitting there, all hooked up to these things, and you're sitting there chatting to each other about cancer. So I never spoke about cancer.
It's like an AA meeting.
It is like an AA meeting. I didn't speak about cancer. I spoke about living, when this is over, what I'm going to be doing, and what I'm going to hook up with these people, and we're going to have a dinner party. While these people were thinking about, oh, woe is me, I spoke life, I spoke hope, I spoke a future that was bright. Your mental state is what's going to beat this thing in the first stages. And if you're thinking negatively, you're losing the battle. You must remain optimistic, hopeful, and you must be diligent in making the life changes in terms of what you eat and how you live, you exercise, and all these things are really key. But you must have a mind shift first.
That's a great message to end with. Duncan, your story's been absolutely amazing. I'm sure individuals who are listening to your story will be inspired by what you've just said. All that left me to say is thank you very much for taking the time to share your story, and I wish you a long and continued good health. And let me know when the new baby comes along.
You'll be the first to know.
Until we meet again.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you very much. Bless you.
The views being expressed in this video are not meant to offer medical advice. They are the views of the person being interviewed. Always seek medical advice from your doctor and base your treatment choices on informed decisions.